Joining me now for reaction is author of the book Still Winning, Washington Times opinion editor and Fox News contributor Charlie Hurt, along with Relatable podcast host Allie Beth Stuckey and Washington Examiner senior campaign reporter Kerry Pickett. So, Charlie, I'll go to you first. What I find comical about that AOC little home video she did there is she's a member of the House of Representatives, which is the branch of the Congress allocated by population. She seems to have missed that whole entire thing, like the whole federalism, electoral college, regional representation thing, right over her head, flew right over her head completely.
Yeah, and of course, the reason that's such a problem for us is the fact that the House of Representatives is, of course, the closest representation to the people. So for her to be ignorant on this is pretty disturbing. But I say to her, welcome to the discussion 200 years late. And of course, if she went back to a civics class, like in elementary school, and learned about this, she would learn that the whole point of this debate and the wisdom of our founders was to create a system that gave states enough power to balance out, to be a counterweight to the federal government. And when you look around at our country today and you look at all the problems with our government, the problems aren't in state governments usually. The problems are with the federal government. And if anything, what we need more of is more power given to those governments to act as a counterweight to the federal government. But all of that goes over her head, apparently.
Yeah, Allie, she seems to have missed the civics class with, horizontal and vertical checks on power. How within, voting for the president, we didn't base it on the popular vote. We did an electoral college to preserve some sense of regional interest. There are farmers in Wisconsin and, as I said last night, citrus farmers in Florida who don't want to be voted out on a strict population direct democracy vote in their interest. She seems to have missed that entirely, yet she's one of the more prominent members of the U.S. Congress now, with one of the biggest Twitter followings.
Well, she seems to miss a lot of classes, apparently civics class, economics class. It could probably go on. But you're absolutely right. What I love is how transparent they are. They've talked about abolishing the Electoral College, getting rid of the Senate because that's not fair, maybe even making the case for getting rid of the Supreme Court. And we know what the theme is in all of that. Republicans control the Senate right now, and the Electoral College got, elected Donald Trump, and the Supreme Court has conservative justices on it. So we know exactly what their motive is. It's not because it's racist. That's actually the narrative that she was pushing on her Instagram stories, where she has millions of followers as well, that it was actually a racist scam. But we know what's really behind that. It's because they want control. She is perfectly fine with people in LA and San Francisco and New York City ruling over the rest of the country because they have the same ideology that she does. And of course, AOC knows best.
Kerry, what I find mildly amusing about this, almost in kind of a tragic way, is this is really not good for a Democrat Party that's having a tough time right now attracting working class Americans. They're really becoming the party of the elites, the Democrats. I mean, you see it in San Francisco. It's a totally bifurcated city right now. And yet she goes on in the video pointing out, what could be any, portion of America that's not densely populated like the Bronx and Queens. And she just sits there and takes a shot at it as if we're not important enough if we're not big-time city dwellers like her. I mean, what kind of silly political strategy is this?
Absolutely, Dan. Think about this. You have Joe Biden as well as a number of other primary Democrats who are trying to pick up a number of voters all over the country. And here you have AOC, who is in her car saying, oh, the Electoral College, it is just not that fair. I mean, come on now. We here on these coastal states, we should be getting better representation. Now, keep in mind, this is sort of the cry of individuals who lost the last election. And, this isn't really unusual. This has been going on, believe it or not, since 1804. Nearly every single Congress has tried to reform the Electoral College since 1804. So this is how a loser cries, essentially.
Charlie, if someone like Biden, who's at least pretending to be a moderate, wins the nomination, after that nomination process is over, he's going to track back to the middle, of course, because there's just no votes to win nationally for a 90% tax rate and health care for illegal immigrants. What does Biden do with AOC and the squad? I mean, how does he handle that? Does he distance himself from them? And if he does, if you're, I don't want to answer for you, but if he does, how does he then get that leftist base that's all excited about them to show up at the polls?
Well, I think that you put your finger on something that I think is the most important story today, and that is that, yeah, it's obvious that Democrats like AOC are doing a lot to damage the party in the eyes of sort of a general election electorate. But my goodness, I think they're destroying their own Democratic base, because there are a lot of rank and file regular Democrat voters out there, and these are the people that you see registered in the polls favoring Joe Biden, who don't support. These are Democrats now. They're people who don't like Donald Trump, and they can give you legitimate reasons for not liking him. And hint, they have nothing to do with Russia or racism. They have to do with other policy positions. And they're completely not represented by any of these loons in the Democratic Party who are racing to the left to give free health care to illegal aliens. And Bill de Blasio wants to give New York City housing to illegal aliens. There are a lot of rank and file Democrats who are looking at that saying, this is not for me. And I think Donald Trump picks up a lot of those people come general election. But, before that, in the Democratic primary, I think it hurts the party.
Ali, what I find puzzling about this is usually the Democrats are a little smarter at hiding who they really are here. They've tried this before in elections, right, Charlie? You're but they have. We tried Mondale, not being me, but they've tried Mondale, Dukakis. This has been tried before, and they've promptly gotten annihilated in these national elections. It's not like there's not a body of evidence out there saying, hey, listen, it's kind of a center-right country. This stuff may be a bad idea, and yet they're walking right off the cliff again.
No, they are playing to a very small minority of Americans who are on the far left, who want socialism. There's, a subsection of millennials who think that all of this stuff is the latest and greatest. Socialism's going to work well in America, and I guess they're appealing to them. Unfortunately for them, millennials don't necessarily turn out in the vote as much as probably they want them to. But there are actually a few Democrats in the Democratic debates who said exactly what you did, that, hey, look, guys, we are not going to win on this platform. Donald Trump is going to win, and I think they're right. But sadly for them, they are not listening to those more logical voices.
Kerry, quick exit question for you. Do you think Nancy Pelosi, as this election gets closer and the penalties start to become very real for missteps, brings AOC and the squad in and says, listen, you need to tamp this down a little bit. We got an election to win?
She's tried that already, and frankly, I think that no matter what Pelosi says to them, AOC and the squad are going to do what they want to do. And she's already told her own caucus, guys, no impeachment, not right now. So I have a feeling that's going to be a very tough thing for her to do.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think they're going to completely ignore her. Hey, thanks a lot, Charlie, Ali, Kerry. Great segment. Appreciate it.
You bet.